Hey everybody, if you're watching this later, there was a question about quizzes. I understand a lot of the quiz topics is not something I lecture on in here. They are in the textbook. If you're creative, you can find a free version. But the quizzes all have like a long period of time to take. And if you look them up, I'm not qualifying that as cheating on that quizzes. So you can look the shit up as you're taking it. You're like, I don't know what this is. Look it up. Okay. It's more of a way to force you to learn shit. Make sure you fucking read it and learn it and answer right. If you don't understand it, you're gonna get the question wrong and it's worth points, but you can learn at the time. And it's not something that's like, it's more of a big picture thing for most of the questions. All right. We are doing the polymorphism lab primer. We looked at this before. We're going to talk about it again because we didn't lose lists last time. I don't think we did lists. I think we just did arrays last time. So create a new project. What day am I on? We did day 10, so we're on day 11. Spring 2024, day 11, polymorphism. And review. Okay, sounds good. We do have our test is next Wednesday. On Monday, we'll be doing some review shit. If you got any questions, bring them then. I'm going to be going through everyone's homework this weekend and sending you responses. I've hit some of them as I've seen them pop up, but I'm going to go through and try to respond to everyone's stuff that they've submitted stuff on. Because like you want responses. That's why you fucking sent the shit in. You're expecting your teacher to be a good teacher. So I'll get responses to you. Which means forsaking Dark Souls 3. I will do that for you because I care about your guys' success.
What are we doing in the test?
So there will be a paper portion that you can do in here, and the rest is kind of like a project at home. The paper portion will have a recursive trace. I will try to have up like a practice thing for you guys in the next day or two. By Saturday evening, I'll have one uploaded. Yeah. Okay. That's the only one where you really need like the rest of it is you've been doing labs for review for the rest. The paper portion is not coding it. You're like doing it by hand. Yeah. And writing out what the recursive trace is doing the recursive trace, like the little picture of the boxes going up or going down or sideways, whichever way you want to do, and showing what the printout on the screen will be. We did it before. We did the recursive trace.
We can just review the video of you drawing it out.
Yeah, but in class you won't have that. It's just paper. No computers. All right. What are we here? Create this. I will be at Mesa Center Saturday from 9 to 12. If you want help. Juan's in here a lot. Juan's on Discord a lot, as am I. You always can ask access for help for questions too. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, fuck, we got a text next week. I'm actually going to get caught up on my homework. Who in here is not caught up on their homework? I get it. I get that. I totally get it. You've done one lab? You got a lot of catch up then. All right. So let's add some more stuff here. CSCI 002, day 11, spring 2024. It is 2/28, 2024. So we're doing notes on polymorphism. Hopefully you've copied it from the module. We just looked at it on the screen. So let's take a look at what we got here. We're including the IO stream, of course. We're including vector and string. We might be doing some stuff with vectors. We've described pi ahead of time. That seems useful. That way, if you do it up here, you don't need to have it in the main and pass it in. You don't need to define it in every function that uses it. As long as it's before everything else, every function after it will access it. All right, so then we got class shape. So let's see. This is where we're gonna multitask here. So we've got shape here. And maybe I'll just do like a weird shape where it's got a bunch of shit going on. Shape's right there, it's class. It contains a string. I don't know what the string is for. We'll find out in a little bit. There are a couple methods associated with it. So we've got an area and a perimeter. Maybe I'll put that outside. Area and perimeter. And they're all part of this like class shape. Oh, there is a volume one as well. Look at that. Ooh. And it looks like, oh, there's our string. Our string is our color. This feels weird. I'm moving the private up top. That's why I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Because it wasn't. There we go. I like that better. Let me know what the variables are right away. That way I know what the hell this is going on. Okay, so this string here is a color. A color pencil. So that right there is a string for color. Oh, not on the picture anymore. Okay, so, and all of these methods are virtual. Maybe I'll put perimeter at top with area because it's got a 0 on it. And volume doesn't. And then we'll come down and take a look at what's going on next. Notice this is called a base class, which means this sounds like a foundation for something. We're going to build upon this. So what's the next class we got? The next class we have is a rectangle. Let's move the privates up top. Let's do that. There we go. So we've adding length and width. Notice rectangle has a string of double, but we've only got length and width defined. It says public shape, which means it is inheriting off of shape. Effectively, what this means is, let's see if I can do this well. Rectangle, my rectangle class uses everything from the shape class. So it uses all of shape, which means it has the string color. So that means we get the string color for free from it. It also has a double for length and width. And by saying public, that's how we're saying that it's using it. The base class is the shape. Public means we're inheriting off of it. Public means inheritance. Means take all of shape's shit. Take all of shape's stuff. Yeah. We're getting there. I know we mentioned, I'm pretty sure we mentioned it before, but we're going to go over it again. Notice that some of these, there's virtual. These all say virtual. These say 0. This one doesn't. Wait till we look at the other. I want to show all the classes first, and then we're going to talk about it because you might be able to spot what's different. Okay, so area and perimeter here. Volume isn't. When we look at rectangle, rectangle has an area and perimeter. So a method for area and perimeter. It doesn't have the equal 0 now, but the one above it does. So shape's got equal 0, perimeter's got equal 0 on shape, but rectangle doesn't. We come down, we look at triangle. Triangle is inheriting off shape. There's my triangle class. It is stealing all of shape stuff as well because it says public. It also has doubles. It's got 3 doubles. It says A, B, and C. Are those the sides? Are those the angles? I'm not sure. Triangles have 3 of each. So we're gonna have to look at the code later on and see what they do. So this should be documented well, and it's not, or have better names. These names are shitty. Right? You could easily have said side A, side B, side C, or angle A, angle B, angle C. This was someone being lazy as fuck. It has area and perimeter as well, but no equal 0. Then we get down to circle. This is gonna be fun. How do I do circle here? Circle will be so they're all stealing from shape. That's what I'm trying to show pictorially. They're all taking shape stuff. Circle has, it's doing it by the public, or circle's doing it by public shape. We got to calculate area and perimeter. And it's got its own variable R, which is probably radius for a circle. It's got area and perimeter, but no volume, which makes sense. It's a 2-dimensional figure. And so far we've all done 2-dimensional figures, so there's no reason for it to have a volume. And then we have cylinder, and cylinder inherits off of circle. It says public circle. So like pictorially, this is like making a can. That's me trying to draw a cylinder. But I didn't have cylinder in my head when I started the circle. So this is my cylinder. It's taking circle, which takes shape, which means it has for free the double R, and it has a string color, and it has area, perimeter, and volume. And this one doesn't say area or volume. This one just says volume. It doesn't need to say area or perimeter because it's already inherited it from cylinder or circle. Okay, so some of these, like cylinder was the only one that included volume, right? All the other ones had area and perimeter, and if you'll notice, they're the exact same name. Calculate area, calculate perimeter, double, 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 double. Now I want some fucking in and out. Right? I did that to myself. What the equal 0 does forces any class that inherits from this to implement methods with these names. They're considered like every shape will have those criteria. Since every shape possible will have an area and a perimeter, it makes sense to say use them. And by doing this, forcing them to use this and use the name, it allows us to use the functions later on, calculate area and calculate perimeter interchangeably, no matter which shape we're using, because they're all stemming from the base shape. Okay,
So is it like defaulting as a shifter kind of?
it's kind of, but
Not really.
it's forcing it to make a, it's not even a constructor, but forcing it to make something that does it later on. It's like a constructor for the methods. There's nothing in it. When we look later on, I think pretty sure this is empty. Virtual, they all said it, but virtual says later classes can use these names. So virtual says later classes can use the names. The equal 0 forces them. Like you can't make a class. If I try to make rectangle and comment this out and comment the ones out below, it's going to tell me to fuck off. All right, so we've got these shapes. I don't know if my picture helped because it's a little, I drew kind of big, so it made it hard to do all this shit. I'm going to shrink the main down. We're going to not look at the main yet. We're going to go look at our implementations. So shape just has, of course, the color. That was the only thing in it. And notice that we don't have anything for area or perimeter. We just have the calculate volume. So by doing the equals 0, it doesn't need to have its own method because it's saying everything after it will have this method. Right. You do it once, you know the name's consistent. There's no confusion on what the name is. It makes working with the code later on easier. All right, that's our base shape. Our 2D shapes, we got rectangle. Of course, this is the constructor. It's saying the length is what, you know, we know how constructors work. Area and perimeter are now defined. The area of a rectangle is length times width. Bam. Calculate perimeter is L plus W plus L plus W, or 2L and 2W. And so it has that there. So it has the equations for area and perimeter for rectangle, and it's forcing the return with the same names. We come down to triangle. Well, this is wrong. It says calculate area, return 5.0. It says to do lookup trig formula. All right. So we need to fill this out later on. Calculate perimeter is return A, B, and C added together, which means A, B, and C are sides. Didn't know that until we looked at it. Even the constructor wasn't clear. Just says arg A, arg B, arg C. What? Still didn't hear you.
Who coded this? Who coded this?
I'm sure this was read.
That's a red.
So the abstract base class for the CSCI classes, that's Redden, and I am the inheritor class. I had inherited all of his shit and have been building on it, like changing some of it. But it's actually, that's actually a good thing to do. This has a name doing this. Fuck, what is it? What? No, where you put something in that isn't correct just to test the code.
Oh.
That's not it. I'll have to look it up. It's in my notes somewhere. But you don't want to watch me look up my notes. I'll look through my notes. That's a lot of work. So we'll fix this in a little bit. I'm gonna go up here and like identify this shit. These are sides because blame Redden. That's what I'm going with. Even though I could have gone through and edited this code, I didn't. I deliberately didn't. First off, it allows me to throw a little shade on Redden. Second off, it is also pretty good to show you how this is fucking not helpful, right? Be a little smarter when you name variables. Don't be lazy fucks. XYZ, ABC is not helpful to anyone. Not even you. If you fucking do the code and then look at it like 3 weeks later. Like, even if it's a couple days later, you might have been, what the hell what was A, B, and C? Yeah, I don't even remember what I labeled these as. So, like, be smarter.
I like to think that Reddit goes through this and then looks at the comments and thinks, what did I do? What's wrong with that?
Yeah, he probably ran it and saw the area was 5. Is like, that sounds right. All right, where are we? Triangles. Circle has the R. Oh, notice how these constructors are all working. The base is regular. The base is fine. I got chat going on. Virtual is necessary, Osvaldo. It allows the other ones to use the same name. What?
Where you spell a wrong answer to test it. Oh, test case.
It sounds like it works, but that wasn't what I was thinking. I'm pretty sure it's not what I was thinking. All right, so we got our like rectangle is heralding off shape. So we've got to do our normal rectangle. We could pass string arg color in right here, but by referencing shape this way, it's just passing. Okay, it knows we're taking in arg color, but pass arg color to shape. Because arg color was defined in the shape, right? Color was defined in the shape. So this is just saying, take the fucking color thing, pass it to our base class. And then it's only defining the length and width here. Same thing with the triangle. And notice it's just done with a single colon and referencing the class you're inheriting from. We'll fix the triangle a little bit before we run the code because we don't want to red that shit. We've got our area and our perimeter. Pi times r times r. This is avoiding using the C math, the PAL function. Why load a library when it's a simple single math operation? Like literally, don't load a whole nother fucking library to fucking calculate a square. You know how squares work. If you don't, you probably shouldn't have been enrolled in CSCI 1 because, well, it requires you to be eligible for Calc 1, which means you pass algebra, which means you should understand what a fucking square is. So don't load extra libraries. Just do the math here. And by do the math is just know the formula and like write it out a better way. There is no r-2 because that's not how it's coded in this. Cylinder is inheriting off of circle. So cylinder, we're passing in the color, the radius, and the height. And it's taking the color and the radius and it's passing it circle. And so circle is like, oh, okay, I've got a color and a radius coming in. I'll work with the radius and I'll pass the color over to shape. So this is like literally trickling down to each of the classes before. The base class is sometimes called the parent class. And the inheritor class is sometimes called the child class. What is the area for a triangle that is not necessarily a right triangle? Let's come over and look at that. I want to say Heron's formula does it. Square root, oh, I guess we might need the C math function, right? So semi-perimeter is what? Half the perimeter. So S is half the perimeter. I'm just gonna copy this portion, put it over in my code. Yeah, we're gonna need the PAL function. So let's go get the PAL function. What do I gotta include? The C math. Where are we? Down here. Okay. So I'm gonna make a double S equals calculate perimeter. Divided by 2.0. That's 1/2 the perimeter. And now we need to do, I'm gonna make another variable for now. So let's call it T equals S times S minus A times S minus B times S minus C. And now I don't want to return 5.0. I want to return power. Is that T and 0.5? It needs another parentheses. And I probably don't need T anymore. It just made it easier for me to read without trying to do the POW first. So I'm gonna go and replace the T and the POW with what the actual calculation was so that we don't need that line. So we took care of that. This was called Heron's formula.
That's why we.
Square it exponentially is 1/2.
That's the same part,
You just logged in, didn't you?
It's been like kind of iffy, but
I can hear you talking on my screen.
And we're using the 2.0 just to ensure there's no integer math, right? Just to-
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to add it and make sure that there's no fuck ups. It shouldn't be because A, B, and C are all listed as doubles.
Just, you know.
It's good habit. If I want to make sure it's going to be a double, I can force it to be a double regardless. Because if I borrowed this from someone else's code, I don't know that they're returning me, giving me a double. So the 2.0 it does that. All right, are we ready to go up and look at we got an idea of how this stuff is inheriting off each other, right? How do we use it? That's just called inheritance. Is everyone ready? Does anyone want this up on the screen longer? All right. Let's come up here and turn on main. All right, see out part 1. We got a vector of base class pointers to enable polymorphism. So we're doing vector and we're doing pointers for shape. And we're calling it my shape list. And then we remember vectors, we push back and do shit like that. We push back, since we're doing a pointer thing, we're going to need to do the new rectangle every time. We learned that in the last sections. But each of these have their own constructor. They're all a shape pointer thing, but since these all have inherited, at least at some level, off of shape, cylinder's 2 steps down, but it still has shape as its ancestor tree. It can be pushed into the vector shape, which is kind of neat. So classes that inherit can be used in pointers of the base class. That's pretty cool.
you also do it for like a parent. It's like, some years a parent is inheriting from circle as well. Can you also do that? Like if you wanted to.
Say that again.
So how you're using a pointer and it's pointing to cylinder.
Uh-huh.
Can you also do that with circle? If
We-
you have a vector of circle.
We could, but we would have to change the setup of circle. That equals 0 is pretty important. The equals 0 is saying everything after it is allowed to use this of the same name. And we're going to get to why that's a good thing. They've each got their own color. These are different things, length, width. These were the side lengths. That was the radius, and then radius and height. This is kind of neat. I think we looked at it before, but we'll look at it again when we're running it. And this is where the polymorphism kicks in, part 2. Even though these are all, this is a vector of shapes, pointers to shapes. And all of these have different functions for perimeter. Rectangle, triangle. Maybe I'll change this to calculate.
Because they all share the same parent class, they can all be put into that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So we should have perimeter here because circle doesn't have a fucking volume. So we got rectangle, triangle, triangle, circle. These are 3 different formulas for calculate perimeter, right? The top one's rectangle, length times width. The middle 2 are triangle, the Heron's formula we just did. And perimeter is pi r squared. But we're able to use the same name for all of them because we're using the inheritance off of a base class that forced the name. And this is the idea of polymorphism. Polymorphism is one of the versions of it. The one we're using here is using the same function or command in multiple ways. Due to the structures and inheritance of the classes involved. That's where the polymorphism is. Because polymorph, who here plays DD? Only a couple of you. What does polymorph spell do? Transforms one creature from one shape to another shape, right? Change shape. Poly is many, morph is form. Change form, many forms. So polymorph is having something that has many forms. That's what polymorph means, many forms. I would say calculate perimeter has many forms. Wouldn't you? So polymorphism seems like a good name for it. Why is there a fucking calculate volume here? This should not run. We're gonna run it and make sure. Because none of them have a calculate volume except the cylinder. We got memory management going on later on, but let's just give this a run and a gander. Oh, it did. It didn't have a problem with it. It gave us a volume of 0 though. Ha! It doesn't have a volume. So what is this going on here? Object 0, class shape, class rectangle. That's coming from this line, these lines right here. So type ID, my shape. The line 2, where we have it right here, where we're using the pointer version, will tell us what each individual actual shape is, rather than just giving us the base shape. When we just did the regular one without it, the one without it says the same thing each time. It's a class, it's a shape pointer with, I have no idea what PTR 64 is. Yeah, I imagine PTR is pointer. I don't know what the 64 is for though. But we can look it up and check it. Maybe, that would be my guess. But then when we actually do the pointer or dereference the pointer, we actually get to see what each shape is. So this is all kind of neat. These don't look like doubles, do they? But that's just because they were whole numbers. So then we come down here, we've got some data management. And it tells us is deleting the class, deleting them as it goes. It looks like without even looking at the code, it's deleting in reverse order. It's deleting cylinder. Because why? When we're taking off the vector, pop back works pretty easy. Rather than trying to delete the front, deleting the tail. Okay. So that's what it's doing. It's going through and popping off each one, telling us which one it's deleting first. Just by shape, rather than telling us what's actually in it. Delete it, pop it off. Why do we gotta delete it? What's this doing that pop back isn't doing?
So like deleting the memory of the thing,
Why do we need to do that though?
so that we can put it in.
So we can put in something new, but like, it's because we set it up with pointers. And if this thing keeps running,
Oh, right.
if this was like in a big, like, let's face it, a lot of video games we play use fuck shapes. So if you had something like this and like, I don't know, like games where you fucking blow shit up at the top of the screen, and you like
Okay, I see
the things keep blowing up, you don't need it anymore. But if it's occupying memory,
Yeah, it's gonna be
your memory is going to be filled up with deleted or destroyed objects. Like if you make an asteroid game, every asteroid that you destroy is still holding up memory unless you delete it when you're doing it. So taking it off, or this takes it off the list of asteroids in play. Delete takes it out of the fucking memory so that you can keep playing before you can play until you die, rather than going, you used up all the memory. You're like, what the fuck? I was crushing this game. When you're doing, well, it's because we were using pointers and we have the new command. So all this stuff was done at runtime. Any questions on polymorphism? Okay.
Yeah, actually, I have one question. So
Yeah.
When I was doing this, when we were originally doing polymorphism, I made some horrible monstrosity where I took the cylinder and then I got the circle and then I kept adding them together. So I would instead of having like a parent class, I would have like a well, I'm technically it was a parent class, but they were all combined into one. So for the constructor, I had to do all of the data types for that. How exactly does that work?
I don't know. How does you make a shape that has fucking multiple shapes like that?
It's
I'd have to see your code, figure out what the hell you did. Like, I don't know how you combine a rectangle and a cylinder. This is called trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, Eli. You learn by like when you're 5 or 6, this is a bad idea. You're supposed to. That's why they have those fucking games. So you identify shapes and realize some things don't go with other things.
What happened to being ambitious?
There's good ambition and there's like madness. Now you're like multiple dimensions here.
Can you go a little bit more to the type ID?
Into what?
Type ID.
Okay,
You just spread this.
let's go look it up.
I watched the video on it this morning.
Did I have a video up for type ID?
Oh no, I was
Okay.
it's on YouTube.
Oh, rude. Someone, when we were doing this before, had it set up where he used type ID in his code. I know it. We talked about it. And I don't remember which student anyone here was figured it out. It was what you had to type in to search for, like what was like putting in the right argument.
But I made it, unfortunately, I made it more efficient, but before it was like this, it was like this. And then it had like another piece of code down here with just linking them all. Using imperatives. It was a big wall. This
What's
is a
the-
nicer version. So this is the for
What's-
the US citizen,
Okay,
the employee like class or whatever. This was for the US citizen. This was like a constructor.
okay.
And then I linked it up. This is a nicer version, but it was like 2 rows down. I just like deleted it. I deleted it because
The other way is not doing like just signing them within rather than doing the thing at the tail.
yeah,
That's what's making it longer.
okay.
Type ID. It's basically spitting out what the object is. So when we were first running it through, it's telling us these are pointers. It's telling us what type of pointers they are. They're shape pointers. I don't know what PTR64 is. We're gonna have to look that up. The second line, dereferencing, is actually telling us what class inherited off of it. So it's IDing what type. Type ID, ID what type.
Oh, okay. You don't do like introduce things.
Right.
So I think the second one.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so like, there's also shape first, right? And that's not has to do with that.
And that had to do with this right here.
Yeah.
This was the one spinning out the pointer because that's what each one of these is. Each one of these, the vector is storing shape pointers, so it's saying these are shape pointers. But when we go, okay, well, we know they're fucking pointers. Tell me what the pointers are. So on the second one, we dereference it, and that says that, oh, you want to know what they actually are? And type ID tends to be used for things with polymorphism because there's otherwise you don't need to look this shit up. You've already know what it is. If this was not a vector shape pointer, it was like vector circle and no pointer, we know it's a circle. It doesn't need this shit. So it's only when you've got multiple things going on.
It was 64 bits. It's a way of the computer identifying what type of Microsoft version you have. That's one
Oh. I'm sure that's in the description right here too. I have no desire to read this all. Derived class, base class. Huh. Any questions? All right, what do you guys want to do? Let's see. Do we got a project we can do together? God damn it. I just need to wait for it to load because anytime I try to scroll early, it fucks it up. What is this? Oh, we already did this. We didn't do push back and push front. We did add front and add end. A size method. Let's load up our doubly linked list thing that we did last time. That's actually a good thing. Let's code up a size method. So I'm going to open what we did on Monday. The fuck is going on with you two? Are those your glasses though? Is he using your glass? And he, so do hers work better only with yours on? Like if you take yours off and put hers on, can you still see?
I can still see, but like it's like I don't fish eye them.
but adding them in front of yours right now enhances your vision.
It kind of like, cause the fisheye lens and then like my glasses, so like it kind of like zooms in. It's kind of like.
Oh, it's like a magnifier. That's cool. It's kind of cool, like a jeweler's, like a jeweler's lens. Kind of. That's way too much magnification. All right, so we were talking about a size method. A size method. Let's come up here. Where were we? Way up at the fucking top. Do you see how unmanageable this shit is? When we were scrolling back and forth, this is fucking lame, right? Trying to go back and forth, even if we didn't do prototypes and implementations, if they were all at the top, it's fucking long. Finding the main sucks too. This is why we use those header and resource files. But it doesn't help for submitting shit in a class. Like trying to submit 3 things and I got to load it and set it up right each time isn't helpful in terms of that. But I think you can see the use for it. We don't want it on the class node because the node's only one side. It's the linked list. So we want a method that we got add nodes. I'm going to put these up here with the other add nodes. I got a lot of del nodes. So we want a size. A size should be an integer, right? And we shouldn't have to take anything in. Right? That makes sense. We already have a list, so that seems like a good name. Let's come down here and implement these. There's a nice little gap right there. We'll put it right here. We gotta scope it. I loved watching Redden do this shit because he would, rather than copy and paste a long fucking name with the resolution, and it'd do it fucking like 7 times because there's all the accessor methods. He would type it out each time. I'm like, why are you doing that? He's like, he didn't ever have a good answer. You know, Red. What the fuck is going on here? There you go. All right, so what we've frequently done is we started off getting a temp pointer to get head. How many have enjoyed the name of that? I see Kevin over there laughing. I heard Kevin's chuckle this time. I heard Kevin this time. I laugh in the back of my head with it, and even with Get Tail. But we could call it the engine and caboose. Like a train, the engine in the front, the caboose in the back. It's how do you know we're not talking about a coin? All right, so we got our head, and it's our temp. And so we need to keep track of this. So maybe we need a counter. And we'll initialize it to 0. Declare and initialize it here. And we frequently did our, let's come down and just copy it. If temp pointer equals null pointer, we'll edit this shit. We'll say return 0. And we'll change the C out to this was an empty list. There's nothing in it, dumbass. Oh, and that's a temp PTR. I just used temp above, so I'll just change this to temp real quick. We'll get rid of our comments here. return does break us out. And now if it's not the null pointer, because we don't want to check null pointer to see if it has a next node. So that's why we got to do that. If we don't put that temp equals 0, temp equals null pointer in there and do a return, if it is, then we're effectively asking, if we pass a null pointer in, we're asking the null pointer, what's your next node? And it's like, dude, you're a dumbass. We don't have a fucking next node. So we'll do like while temp dot next node, get next pointer does not equal null pointer. We want to do a count here. So counter will increment. And that's all we really need to do is jump to the next node, right? So temp equals temp dot get next. Now I'm going to come over here and look at the picture real quick. Close this real quick. Because like if we have A, B, C, and D, and they're all going back and forth because this is a double right now. And D's next is a null pointer. So this one, if we go through this cycle, when it goes to A, A's next pointer is not null, so it's going to say 1. So this is my counter tracker right here. So it's going to say 1 when we get to A. And then it jumps to the next, that's doing 137, 138, jumps to B. Comes up here and says, is B's next pointer null pointer? No, it's not. So we'll increment counter again. And we'll jump down to C. And we start over. Is C's next pointer null? No, it isn't. So we'll increment counter again. 3. And jump down to D. D's next pointer is null. And so the while loop doesn't trigger. So D is not covered by the while loop. Which means we have, I don't want to say, well, we could. There's a couple ways of doing it. We can do counter plus plus here. Now, another way we could do it rather than having this is we could just initialize the counter at 1. So this covers the last node that isn't tracked by the while loop. And rather than changing the code, I'm going to say alternatively, we could initialize the counter at 1 and not have this line. Yeah, we'll give it a try. So let's see. I'm going to do, we'll check it in a second. You're just saying, well, temp is not equal to null pointer. I'm going to comment this out. We'll see how it works. I think you're right. All right. I haven't implemented this though. Does anyone need this up on the screen longer? little bit longer. Okay. Did this thing help with the fucking? Anybody? Okay, it helps somebody. Eli's like, no, I fucking got it already. But you heard what he was talking about doing with his fucking inheritance earlier. He made a monstrosity out of it. He fucking made a Frankenstein creature out of it.
He tried to get them to inherit each other, but instead they were adding together.
I don't know. He didn't show me the actual code. He showed me something for a different, completely different class. As long as the pictorial thing helped for people, that's what I want to know. Right, with corners. It's not really a circle anymore. All right, are we good? All right, size of list is what we call it, right? So my list dot size of list. Wow, I even did you see that? I misspelled it and it still knew, as soon as I added the Z, it fucked it up. It still said, well, maybe you fucked the spelling up. That's pretty handy, Virtual Studios. That's only returning something, so I need to use it as a CO. After adding node AB, we have nodes in the list. I'm gonna add a slash in there, maybe give it another little. That's a great way of testing it, because now all I gotta do is copy this down here, and I can put it down after we added everything, after adding MN, and I can just say after adding node MN. And Redden would have retyped that whole fucking line too. He was great at wasting time. He really fucking was good at, he's a master of wasting fucking time. I waste time in other productive ways, like I talk about stupid shit like Elden Ring and stuff like that. But that's like more fun. He'll like waste time like just retyping the same shit over and over. All right, you guys ready? I don't know that I commented out your stuff. I must have. We have one node, we have 9 nodes. Value not found. Wonder what that was from. I don't know what that line came from. It's somewhere between after node and after like testing search functions right here at 97. 89 has after adding node M, and value not found must be something I put in one of these. That might have been one of our COs.
I did control F and value in discovering that as value.
Really?
Oh, I don't think that output.
So we had, all right, let's just do control F. That's not what it said up above though. It said, oh, there it is. Okay, let's Juan wanted to one up me and make it fucking look nicer. Fuck Juan, but we're gonna do it for him anyways. Size of list, he said, we don't need to do what you did, your slow ass methods. There's no room for that shit here, Mr. Jones. Your ways are lost to us. So you're saying we don't need that counter there, we can just do this. Let's test Juan's hypothesis. Should have been 1 and 9. All right, works good.
So is there any reason to do the first method? There's times where you might want to use the first method, like for example, get to the last note, or there's other times where you want to get more. It really just depends on.
It also is really like, what did I think of first that works, right? Whatever works, like whatever structure you think of, it's kind of hard to go like effectively. If I refactored that, I could have thought about how it worked. But I was just picturing like, how do I know that it's ended? The next thing doesn't exist. That was my mental approach to it. So that's the path I took. Juan's like, do I exist? And so like he was looking at a different way, so he had a different code. They both came to the same result, so I don't know that one's better than the other. His saved 1 line of code, so it's prettier.
Like for the counter, it works really well, but say like you wanna find and get there. Which you can use as the other one where it's get next, and that one will you straight to where you're at. Rather than the middle. But a little better.
So I'll make a note here that I'll put the counter plus plus with the other method. So that way, like the commented out block goes together. And then Juan had a different approach. Saved us all. And you may think a line of code is trivial, and if it's only 1 line of code, yeah. But if you got 3,000 lines of code and someone goes through and refactors and saves 1 line of code, fucking 200 times, that code's got a lot of shorter, like almost, 8% shorter or something like that. I think this one's a little more intuitive. Right? I think I have this get next pointer thing. This is from being contaminated by the dark side. And not the good dark side that is Vader, but the bad dark side that is Redden. Redden's dark side version is like if Jar Jar Binks became a Sith Lord.
What do you mean became?
He might be the overwhelming Sith Lord. And if you don't know what a Sith Lord is, get the fuck out. I know there's actually, this is a great question. Who in here has not watched any of the Star Wars? Really, Kevin? I knew Juan was a defect, but you, Kevin? Now, when I ask this question in stats, guess how many fucking hands go up? Over half. How many of you know what a deck of cards are? Or have used a deck of cards, played with a deck of cards? That's a fun question in stats class too. They don't know what they fucking are. I like literally when I'm trying to do a presentation on statistics using probability, using cards, I have to fucking bring a deck of cards or load, like it's easier to load a picture that shows all the ranks and then the suits. They don't even know.
You have to like bring the deck of cards to like show them the 52.
Well, there's websites like you can do images like deck of playing cards. You want to call it any other thing? If you call it something else, you might get trading cards. So that's nope. We don't want Etsy. Yeah, I could. That's one I like. It's got a nice green background. It shows all 13 ranks and 4 suits in a nice organized pattern. If I brought the deck, I fan it, but like I don't show them one at a time, which would take forever. They really don't know. They've never used them. Like at least half. Did anyone in here not raise their hand to that? I think like everyone's at least played solitaire on the computer at once. If you've not used the real deck, you've at least played solitaire. I have a good time with them when we start discussing hypothesis tests. I come in with I open up the bottom of 2 decks. Like I get like an X-Acto blade to cut the cellophane off the bottom so that I can still unwrap the top. And I make 1 deck fully red and 1 deck fully black. And when I unwrap the cellophane in front of them, I look just enough to see what color it is so I know which slideshow to load up. And I just tell them, like, if I have the red deck in my hand, I'll say, so for every red card you draw, you'll get an extra point on the test. For every black card you draw, we're going to have an extra problem on the test. And like people go, no, I'm like, it's a win-win either way. Like more problems makes each problem worth less. 5 problems missing a question means you're down to a C at best, 80% B minus. If there's 20 questions and you miss 1 problem, you still have an A. So like more questions is a good thing. But they invariably, some classes, well, they'll accuse me, someone's accused me of cheating right away. Like, is that deck loaded? I'm like, you saw me open it. I literally take the cellophane wrapper off of it. And then I've had other classes like just completely defy the laws of statistics and not have natural intuition kick in and say bullshit. They've drawn like 17 cards. I eventually stopped putting them back in the deck going, I'm feeling bad for you. Let's just take them out, leave them to the side as you draw to give you better odds. And they'll go too far. It's 6 o'clock damn near. I'm good if you guys are good. We will do a review on Monday. I will, as long as someone emails me, I'll try to make a review for like Saturday night. Have a review, like a mock test for you guys to practice on. If no one reminds me, I'm not going to remember to do it because I've got Dark Souls at home. And I just beat Soul of Cinder this morning, but I haven't done the Ring DLC, Ring City DLC. So there's stuff I still want to play. So if you don't remind me, I'm not going to do it. I will go over all of the things you've submitted between now and Sunday and like give feedback. If you've submitted it and had questions, like if you're happy with what you did, you don't need any feedback. Don't like say, give me feedback because you already know it's good. Don't waste your time. All right. Peace. Juan's here. You don't got to go.